Okay, so normally I wouldn't discuss a contract termination in the NRL, really, or in any league for that matter, where a player wants to get out of his contract and asks for a mutual contract termination and the club agrees. But Francis Molo and the Dragons, this relationship has gone sour very, very quickly. Considering this time last year, he was negotiating with the club over a contract extension, which was then signed in April, that ran till the end of this season. Now, the Dragons have agreed to terminate his contract. Now, he has to pay back the club an undisclosed sum, which is part of an advance on last year's salary. The sum is around anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000, right? Somewhere in that ballpark. Now, he's been away from the club, training and playing since the end of January, beginning of February. Took a leave of absence. Now, this does stem from the fact that there was an incident in pre-season training between himself and a member of the coaching staff surrounding his decision to stay away from alcohol, stop drinking alcohol. There were some comments made, and there was a very heated argument between himself and a member of Shane Flanagan's coaching team. And so he's taken his leave of absence and hasn't responded to club training or call-ups. So there is that. Now, as I say, his contract was extended until the end of this season. But in this whole breakdown in relationship between Francis Molo and the club, they've stopped paying his wages. Now, that's interesting because anyone can take a leave of absence for mental health reasons or health or personal reasons or health reasons. You know, you can take a leave of absence and still be paid your wages. So the fact that the club has stopped paying his wages, as is reported in the media on multiple different sources, is an interesting one. The fact he also has to pay back an undisclosed sum, an advance on his wages from last year, because he has not played or trained, is interesting. So I can see the RLPA getting dragged into this. I can, or getting involved in some way. And I can also see the NRL getting dragged into this. It seems that the Dragons, from their point of view, are trying to make a statement, basically, because there's a lot of player power and players do regularly ask for contract terminations to get out of contracts to move clubs. It happens quite regularly, or they leave and they change clubs before their contract is up. They do seem to breach their contracts quite regularly in that regard. I'm not saying this is the reason why Francis Molo wants to leave, but player contracts, players change clubs mid-contract quite regularly before, in theory they're meant to. So I can see this is the club trying to wrest some power back from the players and into the club hands. Now, they're trying to make a statement. Now, this is where I can, as I say, see the RLPA and the league getting involved in regards to this contract termination and this dispute between the player and the club. The fact he's got to pay money back is interesting, and the fact they have stopped paying his wages up to this point is also interesting. So this is why I'm doing the video. It's not because Francis Molo is being moved on. It's the way the contract termination and the finances are going to be worked out. Because if there was a serious enough disagreement, an incident between himself and a member of the coaching staff, why wasn't the RLPA involved immediately? So there's a bit more to this that will come out in time. I've never heard of a player, or anyone for that matter, having to pay back salary they've earned to their employer in sport or otherwise. And also having their wages stopped in such a way and it becoming public knowledge. So that's where I can see the RLPA getting involved, and that's where I can see the league getting involved. Maybe on the same side, maybe on different sides. But with how the CBA negotiations were very fraught not that long ago, it's going to be interesting to see if this does cause any issues between the RLPA and the league. We don't know where Francis Molo is going to end up. His brother is still contracted to the club. He's currently in New South Wales Cup at the moment, but is still part of the Dragons system. And of course, there'll be a lot of people who remember Francis Molo for all the wrong reasons about 10 years ago with a very, very tragic incident where a player unfortunately passed away following a tackle that he made where he got an 8-game suspension when he was playing in Queensland Cup. So he has got a checkered history as a player, and there'll be a lot of people who believe he shouldn't have been given a second chance following that tragic incident. And there are those that think because he's, had a falling out with the club in regards to the coaching staff, that this was his way of trying to get out of a contract so he could find a better deal at another club. But what we know so far is he hasn't trained, hasn't played, has had a leave of absence, got to pay money back, and hasn't been paid for a couple of months. And that the relationship has soured. And he wanted his contract terminated. The club, fully aware that he really doesn't want to play there anymore, have agreed to that under the condition he pays them money back. So we shall see what happens, but this is definitely different in regards to a contract termination, like a mutual termination, so a player can sign elsewhere, or a player swap, or anything like that, where the player or the club decide to end the contract early. In such a way, I've never heard of wages not being paid and having to pay money back. It's an interesting one. It's going to be an interesting one to see, as I say, what the RLPA and the league do. I can see rule changes surrounding player contracts, and I can see potentially the RLPA getting involved and this actually having legal ramifications where we could see Francis Molo take the Dragons to court, or vice versa if he doesn't pay the money back. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the Francis Molo situation in the comment section below. He has been a controversial player way back when, but this is a very, very divisive and controversial situation. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.